see a new video that comes up that's streaming, and that's going to be my desktop.
Oh, it's on YouTube?
Yep, that's what I said, YouTube.
Okay. Subscribers.
I never use it too. I just.
Is this it?
Yeah, that's it. Give it a second though, because I need to make sure the live stream comes up. I don't think it's coming up yet. No, it says streams live. So if you refresh the page, maybe.
Yeah, it says you're live.
Okay, click on the live video, and that should be my desktop. You looks like you got it. Okay, I have it. So is everybody who's watching? You should be able to see me moving around Unreal.
No.
No? There could be a delay.
No, you're good.
Yeah, over there. So it's like a 10-second delay. Looks like. Does anyone? So.
That's normal. Yeah, 10-second delay.
There's no. Okay. So I have two watching. So somebody's watching.
I'm watching.
So you type in Dotware Games, and it says Dotware Games live stream using Unreal Engine. That's the video you want. It says live now, and it should look like this.
You're live. It doesn't say that you're live. It's live.
Try refreshing the page or clicking on my profile.
Yeah, it says it's only 4.
Okay, 4 watching. That's good. That's all you guys. That's what I'm saying.
4 views on the live stream from half an hour ago.
No, from right now. I was testing a half hour ago. It's from 96 seconds ago. Oh, okay. Don't click if it uploaded my test video from like an hour ago, whatever. You're not clicking that. You're clicking the one that's currently live.
Oh, here's one.
Tell you what, I'm putting a big, bright blue light in the middle of my screen, so you'll know if it's a live stream with the big blue light.
How am I watching?
So you don't want to watch the one that I made already.
But it still says live.
Yeah, live. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, you're good.
Wow. I love spy.
You got it in the chat. What you want is click that. And right here, the one that says live now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, click that. It's a weird YouTube thing. You think it comes up and you're related. So click that. Yep. You got it. You do it like this. Click that video. And then you see like related. Yeah. So show him that. Over here. You got it.
Mr. I'm signing in the chat.
What's that? Sign in the chat. I mean, right here you can chat. With that. Yep. That.
This is most viewers.
With that. that. Okay. Or that is live. Yeah. All right. So I think I need batteries for this mic, which is a bummer because my next two classes are the loud ones. Unfortunately. All right, let's begin. Just type in Dotware Games Live, maybe. That'll work.
Dotware Games Live.
Yeah, if you search that instead. Okay, go around though. Go around. Yeah, I'm flying around. If it's the one, I'm flying around in this and doing all this stuff.
There's a lot of lag on our end. It is so high quality.
Is it low quality that you can't make it out? You can hit the gear icon. It should be in 1080p. It should be high definition. So you can make. You can increase the quality. That's just your internet, the school's internet. So, like I'm doing the board here, go to it and select 1080p on YouTube. Hit the gear icon and then go to 1080p. Cool. All right. For those of you who can't get the video, just follow along. It's just to be like the other classes. This is just so that if you're like, I can't see the code, since half of you guys cannot ever see what the code says because the screen's so small, you can pull up the window. All right? Okay, we're going to begin. So, starting now, if I hit play, basically you guys have a progress bar up there. And did we do the flip-flop node yet? We did that? Okay. So everybody go to your third-person character. Select your third-person character and hit Edit, Blueprint, Open Blueprint Editor.
Okay, I'm opening.
Okay, so you should be in your graph. Like so. And it looks like I deleted, no, I didn't delete. So okay, we did the E key, some of you. I'm going to change mine to the F key so I don't get confused, since all my other classes we did F.
Can I make one to R?
You can make yours whatever character you want.
No, like can I, instead of having an F key, can I make it R?
Yeah, that's what I said. You can just look up R and then do something else. Okay, so, yeah. Not showing the blueprint. Who's here for my last class, or who has me twice? Anybody in here? Raise your hand. This is the only class I have you in. Okay. Can you help him over there? He needs to open his blueprint editor. Cool. Okay. All right, guys, let's quiet down now because I'm going to give you the next instruction. So, everybody, you're on your blueprint graph. In the lower left is an area called variables. Okay? Variables Hey guys, I'm hearing talking, it's distracting me. It's hard to think and talk at the same time. Thank you. So right here it says variables. If you hover over this plus icon next to it, you can create new variables. So click the plus icon. And I want you to type in battery life. Okay? Yep. So you're in the lower left. There's a plus icon for variables. You clicked plus, and you get battery life. And now in the details panel in the right, you can change different things. You can change its name, rename it, sort of thing. But I want you to change its variable type. And you change that to something called float. It's 4 down. So click variable type and go down to something called float. Okay.
Mr. Nothing happened.
I'm sorry?
Nothing happened.
Did you hit the plus icon?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you rename it battery life, and then your details on the right, you want to select float from the variable type dropdown. Okay? All right. So what a float is, by the way, is it's a number variable. And this is how we're going to store how much battery is left in our flashlight. So a battery, well, the reason we're using a float is a type of number. You don't really think about this. You just think, oh, well, all numbers are the same. But sometimes you have to use certain numbers for certain reasons. A float is just fancy words for floating point, a.k.a. something that has a decimal. All right? And since it'd be nice to have our battery be between 0 and 1, so we can say it's between 0% and 100%, we're going to use a float. So that's why we're doing that. So you have a battery life variable. It's called float. Go ahead and hit this compile button in the upper left. And then you get this default value here. And in the lower right, under details, change the default value of battery life to 1. Okay.
Mr. I'm lost.
If you're lost, are you looking at the live stream? Is that going to help? Because you can see what I'm doing with that. It's super what? Delayed. Well, that's even better then, because if I set it and then you don't get it, you can go back. And also you can scroll backwards in the live stream. Just because it's live doesn't mean you have to be exactly where you're at. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to create another variable. So variables, you're going to hit the plus icon again. And this time you're going to type in is, guys, don't interrupt, raise your hand. Is battery on, question mark. That's what I'm naming my variable, is battery on, question mark. And then in our details panel, change the variable type to this top type called Boolean. What's that?
Wait. The variable called is battery on?
Yeah, I literally named the battery is battery on, question mark. I named it a sentence.
And we want to make this another float or a...
No, you want to name this a Boolean. This is a Boolean type, okay?
Battery is a float?
Battery life is a float, yep. And then the second variable we created called is battery on, that's going to be a Boolean, the red colored variable. And then also in its default value, go ahead and check mark that since all of our lights are starting on in the on position anyway. Okay.
And then another one part is battery on?
Yes, you have two variables, one called is battery on, question mark, and that's a Boolean, and then you have another one's a float called battery life. Okay?
Okay.
All right. All right, moving on. What I want you to do is I want you to find the area of your graph that has the F key or E key or whatever, where your flip-flop is, where the turning on and off of the flashlight happens. So you're over by your F key and your flip-flop and all that. What we're going to do is we're going to add is battery on, question mark. We're going to add that to our code. We're going to set it here. So go ahead and drag from the lower left is battery on variable onto your graph and get the set. You want the set one and connect that top set intensity to it and then do it again for the B channel as well. Okay. And make sure that the bottom one where the light's getting turned back on again, you check mark that little box next to is battery on. Follow the YouTube video. What we'll do is we'll come back and we'll have some lab time at the end, but I don't want to stop for the students who are able to follow along as I go along. Okay. So I have is battery on in two places. It's being set. The first one, it's set to false or it's just not checked. And the bottom one, it's set to true. Okay. All right. Now, what we're doing with this, guys, is we're setting our code up for the future so that we can know whether our flashlight is on or off. Because there's things we want to do with that information. For example, we want to know how to drain our flashlight battery, but we don't want to drain our flashlight while the battery is off, only when it's on. So that's why we're setting these variables. We'll ask this variable later, you know, hey, is the battery on or is it off? And if it's checked, that means on. And if it's unchecked, that means off. Okay?
So why is mine green?
You should be doing the red variable called is battery on. The green one is the number variable. We're not doing that yet.
Okay.
Okay. All right, guys, moving on. Find, let's see, did we do event tick? No, we did not. Okay, find an empty part of the graph. Okay, so find an empty part of the graph, and I want you to type in the words event tick. Okay? And then select event tick. And we're going to drag off from event tick. And we're going to type in branch. Select branch. Now go ahead and drag off your is battery on, that red variable, right over next to branch and do the get version. So we're not setting is battery on, we're getting it. And then plug that is battery on into the condition part of branch. What we're doing is we're asking with this branch, it's going to give us, it's going to do either a true channel, or it's going to execute code on the true channel, or it's going to execute it on the false channel. And so there's some code that we want to execute on the true channel, which is, hey, drain the battery life. And the false channel, we don't want to drain that battery life. So that's what we're doing. So it looks like event tick followed by a branch, and is battery on is plugged in. Now, drag off of this true branch from the branch node. And I want you to type in something called delay. And delay, what that's going to do is it's going to stagger our code a little bit. The reason why we do this is event tick is a very interesting event. Before we did event begin play, right? Event begin play happens how many times? Yeah, once. That's right. It happens only once when the game starts. Event tick's like the complete opposite. Event tick happens fractions of a second. It happens all the time. It's constantly firing as long as you're playing the game. So what we want to do is it's a good place for us to drain our battery. But we don't want to drain it that fast, so that's why we're putting the delay node in here. So next thing I want you to do is, remember our battery life variable we just made, the green one, our float. Drag that and get a set, because we're going to set it, and connect the delay to our set battery life. And then below that, basically below / between delay and set, go ahead and drag battery life again and do a get. And from that get of battery life, we're just getting information. Drag off of that and type in minus. And you want the one that says float minus float. Select it. And it's going to come up with this node that gives you 1.0 whatever. Change that number to 0.05. Float minus float. Yep. Cool. And guys, if you need, look at the live stream and you can see exactly what my code looks like. Okay. So then what I want you to do is I want you to drag off this rightmost circle into battery life on your set. What that means is you're connecting those calculations. What essentially the code is saying here is, hey, every 0.2 seconds, which means 5 times a second, I want you to subtract whatever battery life is at currently by 0.05 and then set the new value of battery life to whatever that result is.
Mister, would you type in and get the little box that says 0.5?
That's called a delay node.
No, the other one, the bottom one.
That's minus, so you type in minus. You want to select the one that says float minus float. Okay. There's one more thing I'd like to do here because we don't actually have this hooked up to our progress bar or anything. I don't know if we'll get to that this time. Is I want everyone to go to the front of our event tick area.
Float minus float.
Yep. So go to the front of your event tick and drag off of event tick the words print string. That's what you're going to type in.
Mister, it's not on here. Print string?
You just type in minus, and you should see something that says float minus float.
It says float float. It doesn't say float minus float.
Oh, I thought this was supposed to have separate
Well, I'm sorry?
print string. Is this supposed to separate like between the event tick and the branch?
Yeah, we're putting the print string basically between event tick and branch. Yeah, I want you all to put print string right here after event tick, but before branch. And then this is real simple. What print string does, by the way, is print string puts some words on your screen so that you can see it as a programmer. Your player's not going to be able to see it, but it helps you out. So go ahead and drag off of battery life right next to your print string now. Hit get, and then connect that battery life into the thing that says in string, and it's going to make a little automatic converting thing here. That just means it's converting it from a number to a text type, but it already does that for you. And then if you hit play, you should see numbers on the left side of your screen. So go ahead and hit play.
Oh.
So if you see that number and it should be draining, that's your value. That's the value of your battery life variable. And it starts out at 1, and then it slowly drains and drains and drains and drains, or quickly drains and drains.
Wait, is this only?
Mr. Torres, yes.
Mr. Torres, see the thing that has the purple and the rainbow next to it? How do you get that?
Oh, you don't even need to code for that. All you have to do is drag in battery life into print string, and it's automatically going to give you that. Yep.
What if it doesn't drain your battery life and it just says 0, 0, 0, 0?
That means that your calculation is not hooked up. So go ahead and look at here. You should have, it should say battery life minus 0.05, and then this part, you make sure that's connected to your set. Is it? The output?
I think it should work now.
I have it on the stream if you need to look at it.
No, Miss, do you see the little thing that's connected, the green and the purple?
Yep.
Yeah, that one.
So that, like I said, I answered your question already, so I'll answer it one more time. Listen, if I have my battery life, right? I drag off of battery life, and I drag that wire into the thing that says in string, and then I let go. It's going to make that automatically. Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then hit play, and it should be printing out on your left the value of that variable. Okay.
It's 0.0.
So if it's just saying 0, there's a couple things that I would recommend. First of all, select your battery life, and make sure the default value in your details panel is 1. So I make sure it's 1. And then also make sure that that calculation is working. Go back to the calculation and it should look like this. So it should be up on the live stream now. Make sure all those wires are connected where they're supposed to be. Yeah.
Like I messed up. It just keeps on putting 0.0.
Okay, well, we have 7 minutes left of class, so that'll be it for the formal instruction. I'll now come around and take a look at your guys' code. Okay. All right, questions? All right, your hand is up first. Well, lit mode is something just for the developer to see. If you're trying to achieve some effect, if you're trying to make the player see this way, basically. Is that what you're trying to do? So this, you're not really able to, at least for hard to know. What lit is doing is just to show you only like the lighting. Hold on a second. Lit's a default. Okay, so what? I'm sorry. What are you trying to do? Okay, that's coming from the light. So but you don't want to delete the light. You don't want to delete it. Oh, so you like that it's, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Because there's light coming out and it should be contained. I think that'll go away if you build it. If you build it in light, it should probably be back. Oh, it didn't work? The light still won't work. Really?
Oh god no.
Oh, I just did it. I just did it, it should work. Oh, I see, okay. Alright, so hit build. So wait till it's done. I guess you'll see. Yeah. Hit escape. Let's go in front of it. Yeah, looks good. Hit battery lift. Rah! The top of the battery lift. Set it to 1. That's our, we want it to be a default of 1. Yeah. Hit play. Okay, hit escape. So our minus isn't happening. Oh, I know why. This needs to be set to true. Is battery on? Yeah. You actually, you did that code right. So we just need to get you to event tip. So type in TICK. That's right. Yeah, this is about this is the first battery. You haven't connected that yet. So type in branch. Select branch. Drag each battery on it. Drag right there. Get. Connect those. Great. Next thing. Now I want you to drag, I'm sorry, true, drag up the true. Type delay. I want you to conquer there. We're basically doing this code here. This code. So you want to get set battery life, and then you want to get battery life minus. So
That's where the actually off and on.
Yeah, because when the battery's off, you don't want it to drain. It's on. So that means that something's wrong with your code as far as setting that boolean true or false. So that's supposed to go ahead and turn off. What? So yeah, you want to drag this off and use setter get. And then guys, I'm gonna answer some other questions if I haven't answered yet. Yeah, it's because these are all sets. Remember, set is just for when we set the variable to be a value. Get is just asking what is it. So when you drag this out here, it actually asks what get is your set. If you want to get it, then you put a real one. So it has no option to set it here. It just has an option to put a real one. And that makes it minus, because you did minus key with the word minus yet. And then the one that says float minus float, what's that? Float minus float right above it. And then change it to 0.05. Drag the whole from battery life. So you're setting battery life minus 0.5. So almost there. What you want to do is you want to set drag. This one thing we'll do var. That's what you want to put that. Rename it to battery life. Guys, with 2 minutes, so go ahead and save and then exit out. What's that? Save all? Change the name of something? Yeah, save all. Okay, and then change the default mode to 1. File.
I did not think, I put on the, I did not think. I wouldn't have nervous like I
Set. Drag, yeah. You want to drag it again? Drag off of it.
I'll turn on the numbers. Numbers. No, why not?
Now save. We'll start the next time. We'll build sliding in work. Let's see. Maybe bring it up more. Maybe the lights to be. Thanks, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. What? What?
Hey, I had a bit of problem. The thing closed out on me entirely, so I tried my best to get back to where we were here.
Yeah.
And I need help. I don't know what I'm doing after.
Okay,
Because
well,
the screen is so small.
I think the live stream will be up for a few hours, maybe all day. I'll go back and watch that.
So what's happening here? It only goes up to the.
Hold on, let me make sure my door's free.
The screen only goes up to the variable. And after that, it's like it's the entire thing. You can't really see what's going on here.
Oh, you just gotta connect that.
Yeah, but what's this?
That's what you drag off there and take the minus.
Minus?
No, yeah, minus. Subtracting it.
Alright, I'll try to get it up tomorrow.
Okay.
So that we get going.
All right.
What is my select say for
I feel like my computer is not on.
Bye, Taurus.
Bye.
Oh, it's not broken.
Watching. Oh, well, if you look up here, there's a way that you can select something. You can, this thing called anchors, you can make it cheat towards a certain thing. So if you want something to be in the middle, you just select the middle one. If you want it to be on the top left, you do the top left one, and that should help it so it doesn't change. It stays the same no matter what the size of your screen is. So guys, we have the attendance being passed along, and in the meantime, I think I solved a big problem with being able to follow along. All right. So usually with this class, we have to look at our iPod Classic size projector to figure out what the hell I'm talking about. However, being online live resulted in me streaming our lesson live, pull up the tab on YouTube right now, and we'll look up and see exactly what it is. Rather than have to go look it up, well, first of all, I tried to develop my YouTube video here, how you want to like to build videos. So one will say big words live. Dotware game, see the sign over there? Yeah, it's live. Yeah, he's got it. What's that? The YouTube channel I don't ever use. Once it's live, I'll see how it's live. it. Yeah. You guys, it'll look like I'll pull up my big Unreal screen. You'll know that that's it. One thing I have to do, turn down the audio. I'm here, same audio I'm saying. So like that, make sure you join. Okay.
Don't let him borrow.
On this side of the page, put a check mark next to the
What am I exactly? Self-employed? No, I'm actually Nigerian. They don't say that dark
Yeah, you know what you're gonna do if this happens, you're not covering the amount of time. Alright, there is an attendance sheet being passed back in the rows, so make sure when you see that, you check mark next to your name, pass to the next person, and tell them to do the same, okay? Alright, we're going to start with the video. In the meantime, please open up your Unreal projects. We're going to get started on
Every year, we get a lot of requests to do sponsored shows, and we end up turning the vast majority of them down. But every once in a while, somebody approaches us and suggests something really interesting, like those Punic Wars episodes we did. It's usually something that as soon as they pitch the idea, we all go, wow, why didn't we think of that? Well, recently, the folks at Unity asked us to do a series on creating your first game. Frankly, I'm actually shocked we haven't addressed that before now, so time to fix that. The truth is, I have run into too many people who at some point decided they wanted to make games, and they picked up an engine, and they started diving in, and they quit before they ever finished their first game because the experience was just frustrating. It seemed like it was going nowhere. And I don't know if we can help, but this team has quite a lot of collective game-making experience, so hopefully some of our advice here will help you avoid the common pitfalls. The first thing you're gonna want to be careful about is scope. Many people pick up a game engine dreaming of making the types of games they play. Unfortunately, this often just is not possible. Games like God of War or Final Fantasy are made by teams of at least 40 people, sometimes way more than 40 people, over the course of several years. Even if you're just amazing and you throw your whole life into creating your game, you're not gonna make a God of War or a Final Fantasy. Not even close, and especially not on your first attempt. Truth is, you're not even going to create something like Super Mario Bros. As your first game. You may create like 1 level's worth of Super Mario Bros., but even that's kind of pushing it. Your goal with your first game should be to get something built that you can actually play, even in the most rudimentary fashion, as soon as possible. Think of your first game as a learning exercise, not your masterwork. If you start with a huge project, you'll find that you don't even know where to begin, and you'll get bogged down doing little bits and pieces that have no tangible result, and it'll seem like you're not making any progress at all, and you'll hit roadblocks that you don't know how to overcome, simply to be left flailing for what to even work on next. Trust me, keep it simple. If your first attempt at making a game turns out to be a one-room platformer with bad collision that you took 3 weeks to build, be proud of that because you built it. You actually got it done. You made a game. That's more than most people ever manage. So play it and show it to your friends. And don't worry when they don't understand it or are critical because they're still thinking in terms of the big budget games they're used to playing. You know how much work went into making that game, and more importantly, you know that next time you'll be able to do it even better and faster. Soon, you'll be building games that people are asking you to let them play. Second thing to keep in mind, and I know this is going to sound weird, but don't go into your first game with a specific idea. Learn what you can do and design around that. Don't lock yourself into an idea and beat your head against it for weeks or months. Instead, learn a few tricks, watch a few tutorials, then start working towards something you're pretty sure you can build. It's okay if there are still a few parts of it you have no idea how to even start to do, but make sure it's only a few parts when you're breaking your project down and planning things out. Which, of course, brings us to tutorials. Any major engine has tons of people who happily make tutorials about pretty much everything. Go find them, watch them, study them. Then, if you're stuck or if you can't find an answer to your question, just ask. You'd be shocked at how many people are happy to help you through things if you just post on a forum or throw your thoughts onto the message boards. And don't be afraid of coding. Lots of people say they can't code, but if you design your game right, you would be shocked at how little coding you actually have to do to get something done. It's a small enough amount that any of you out there watching this right now can handle it. Again, just start small, keep it simple. You'll learn as you go, and here especially there are plenty of sites out there that'll help get you started. Stack Exchange is a fantastic place to look if you have questions. Which leads us nicely into one of the big ones. Design your game around your skills. Part of understanding your scope is understanding your resources, and in this case, you are your resources. Are you a great artist but you've never coded in your life? In that case, have your game lean on your art skills while pushing you just enough on the code side that you learn some new things. Are you somebody who can't draw or model or animate? That's alright. There are plenty of games out there that get away with what you'd call minimal graphics. Accept that and embrace it as part of your design. Constraints force us to be creative. And if there's something you really just have to have, if there's some coding task or some piece of art that your game just can't live without but you just don't have the chops to do it yourself, go to the asset store. There is an amazing amount of stuff that you can get there for next to nothing. James just talked to a professional studio that picked up their entire voice chat code from the asset store for less than it would have cost them all to go to the movies. James really wishes he had this sort of thing when he started out working in games, so take advantage of it. Finally, don't give up. There is a lot of life that's gonna get in the way. Most people start out doing this between juggling a job or a full school schedule, and it's very, very easy to let days and then weeks pass before you get back to working on your game. It's gonna be a struggle at first, no question. I wish I had more comforting words for you, but all I can say is that most things worth doing are a struggle. And if you stick with it, maybe one day you'll have the option to make games instead of having to do all that other stuff. But that's it for the basics. I know that was all broad, basic stuff that most of you probably already knew, but I think it's important to start there, because when you're deep in the process of making a game, it's often that really high-level, basic stuff that people forget. But join us next episode for more of the practical nuts and bolts of making your first game. See you next week.
So that's extra credits. They have a million videos on game design and game development. Really good stuff. So we'll definitely be seeing more of that. Question, is anybody not sign the attendance sheet? Going once, going twice, forever hold your peace. Okay, so you guys have your Unreal projects open. I'd like to ask, what did we do last time? Hey, here to join? Sweet. All right, I might need you as my resident tutor. Just saying, Jonathan. This is Jonathan. He'll answer any questions when people have them. So you raise your hand. So what we're going to do today is take a look here at Unreal. Get to your third-person character and open his blueprint graph. So how we do that, we find our third-person character, edit blueprint, open blueprint editor. And then we'll be on our graph. By the way, Jonathan, just so you know, we're now streaming live so that people, instead of looking at this tiny projector, can also pull up beside this little YouTube thing so people can follow along. And by the way, that also would apply to your other classes. So I don't know if you're in some other class, one that you are supposed to be. I should have said, I just created a monster. If you're in math or history, there's nothing I can do. I can't control you. So that's true, but that sounds like work. Anyway, how about this? If you're in your other design classes, game design classes, because I know some of you have Mr. Rendon and you have me, this is a further resource, okay? So also, I think I'll leave them up depending on how it goes, and then they'll stay up there so you can follow along. All right. So somebody remind me what we did last time. Did our light turns on and off? Yes? Okay. Did we create any variables yet? Yes? No.
What do you mean by variable?
In the lower left here, there's a variable button. If I hit plus icon on that, it creates a variable. What's that? For this class? I don't think it's had set to power. No, I don't think so. But I wonder if we did create a variable or not. Does that sound familiar? Okay, so we're starting from there. So listen up, guys. What I want you to do is look. Question.
On the YouTube video, it's like you can't see everything around. Is there any way you can shrink
Oh, okay, what do you see on the YouTube video?
I can see all the way down to...
Oh, you're right. It's sort of zoomed in. Okay. Let's see. What can I do about that? How's that? Yeah, the YouTube is a little bit of a delay, so it's about 10 seconds behind. But there, you can see the whole screen now? Good? Okay, great. Awesome. So, okay, in that lower left, there's something called variables. And next to the word variables, if you hover over that plus icon, it says plus variable. That's how we add a new variable, which we're going to do now. So click the plus icon. And you get this thing, it says new var, or whatever, right? What is a variable? A variable is something that stores information, okay? So it's something that records information, and basically games are always doing that. They're storing information and then changing that information. What I want you to do is I want you to name this variable battery power, okay? And you literally name it battery space power. Variables, you can't have spaces when you name it, thankfully. John, I think we have a question over here. Okay. So you name it battery power. Now, on the left, in details, I want you to change this variable type to something called float. So it says variable type, and you want to change it to float. Yeah?
It's not showing up.
If it doesn't pop up.
All right, what's not showing up?
Like I can click the plus, and it flashes.
Turn it around so you
Then float.
can turn it on more.
Okay, so that's gone now.
Yeah. Yeah, you created a variable. Select that variable you created. There's one that's red. See at the bottom there? No, in your variable list on the left there. Yeah. Now see in the details, you can change its name, you can change the type. That you're naming battery life, and then you're going to change the type. So that there's a thing underneath the variable name and details says variable type. Change it to float. Make sure it's a float, which is green. Okay? A float, by the way, is just a weird word for a number with a decimal. Okay? Sometimes you want numbers that have decimals, sometimes you don't. The best analogy for this, best metaphor, is to say, like, I can have 1.5 apples, right? That's 1.5 apples. But if I have 1.5 humans, I have a mess on my hands, right? You can only have 2 humans or 1 human. That's because that is an integer, right? That's the difference between an integer and a float. Right now we're using a float because we want something with a decimal. That's going to be our battery's life, okay? All right. So guys, listen up. Upper left here, there's a button called compile. It has a picture of some gears and a question mark. Click compile. And now, once you've done that, you click compile. And back in details, you can change the default value of your battery power variable. It's set to 0 right now. Change it to 1. Okay. I want us to start off with full battery power, right? Our light's on to begin with, so it should be set to 1. Okay, once you've done that, we're going to add another variable. So we just did that with variables, so go ahead and go to the lower left, hit the plus icon under variables, and next to variables. You get a new variable. With this new variable, we're going to change its name in details, call it is battery on, question mark. Very literal name. I'm literally naming it is battery on, question mark. This variable is going to store whether our battery is on or off. And to do that, we don't want it to be a number type. We want to change the variable type now. Go ahead. Change it to a Boolean, which is the first option that comes down in the variable type. And that's the red option. A Boolean is just a fancy, weird old programming word for true or false. Okay? It's the most fundamental variable. It could literally store only two pieces of information, either true or false, which is perfect because our light can only be in one of two states at any given time. It can either be true or it can be false. It can either be on or off. So that's where we're using a Boolean. So then on the left, go ahead and hit compile. That's that gear icon, right? So you hit compile on the left, and that'll let us change the default value of is battery on. And I want you to check mark the little square in default value on your details panel. That means that we're setting it to true by default. Okay? And we want it true by default because our lights are on when the game starts. Okay? All right. So you've done that. Now I want you to go ahead and navigate over to your code where you did the flip-flop and the turning on of the light, right? So for me, it's the F key. And find where that code is. Remember to use your right mouse button, holding it down to drag around. Let's see, drag around your graph. And what we want to do is we're going to add to this code so that this code can record information that we can use later. We want to record when our light is on and when it's off. Well, why do we want to do that? Because that information is useful for us programmatically. The most obvious example is, hey, we want our battery to drain later on, but we only want it to drain when the flashlight is being used. When it's on. When the flashlight's off, it makes no sense to punish the player and continue to drain the light. So to do that, we need to store and record when it's on and off, which is exactly what we're doing. So to do that, following along, drag your is battery on, that red variable, the one with the question mark, over your graph, let go, and it's going to ask you if you want to get it or set it. You want to pick set, and you're going to get this red node here. And go ahead and connect that right after the set intensity. And you're going to do it one more time again for that lower one as well, for the B channel. Drag it off, set, connect the set. Okay. And for this bottom one, since this is responsible for turning the light back on, right, our intensity is really high on that one, we want to make sure that this check mark on the set is checked. So this box is checked. So the idea being that in channel A, the set intensity is set to 0, and then the Boolean, the variable that records whether our flashlight is on or off, is set to false, like it should be. And then, of course, we set it back to true when the light goes back on. Okay? And remember, you have that YouTube video that you could look at if you need to see what my code looks like. It's all up there, too. Okay? All right. How are we doing on that? Doing okay? Yeah? All right. Good. You're already eons ahead from my last class, so you're doing good. What I want you to do now is I want you to find another area of blank graph. So find a new area. We're going to write some new code. And I want you to right-click in this new area of graph and type in tick, T-I-C-K. And there's something that comes up called event tick. Click that. Event tick. What is event tick? Now, last class, we gave you a player screen, right? We did the widget. Okay, so we created the widget on begin play. How many times does the begin play event get fired? Once. That's right. It only gets fired once when the game starts. Event tick is like the opposite of that. Event tick gets fired every time the game renders a frame. So it's being executed, aka fired, constantly. Event tick is a constant firing thing, which is perfect for our use because we want to check constantly, is our battery on? Is our flashlight on? If so, drain it. If not, stop draining it. And so that's why we're putting in event tick. So what I want you to do now is drag off of event tick and type in branch. And select branch. Branch asks if something is true or false, and then it's either going to let you put code on the true channel or in the false channel. So once you pull up the branch, go ahead and drag off your variable is battery on onto the graph, and when it asks which kind you want, you're going to do a get a get. So if you did a set, go ahead and delete that. You want to get a get this time. And you want to connect is battery on into the condition part of branch. Like so. Okay? And what's cool about this is branch is going to basically ask every frame, hey, what is the variable is battery on set to? Is it set to true or is it set to false? And it's going to constantly run the code based on that information either through the true channel or through the false channel. And on the true channel, we want to drain our light, of course. So go ahead and we'll code the draining of the battery now. Drag off of true, and then type in the word delay. And select the delay that comes up. The delay node is just going to slow down any code that comes up after it because the event tick happens at fractions of a second. So if we ran a calculation through that, your light would be drained too fast. So what delay lets us do is lets us slow it down. By default, it's at 0.2. That means every 0.2 seconds do the code after it, which is perfect. That means 5 times a second. So once you have that, drag off of delay. Actually, no, don't drag off of delay. What we'll do is we'll just have you grab in the lower left battery power. This is battery power, the green variable, the number variable. And this time pick a set and then connect that set to the delay. So it's going from delay to set. And then drag battery power off one more time. This time we're putting this kind of in between delay and set, sort of like beneath it. And this time we're getting a get. And then once you've done that, from our get of battery power, a little battery power reference here, drag off of there, and then type in minus. You can either type in the word minus or you can type in the minus key, doesn't matter. What's going to come up is a couple options. The top option you want is the one that says float minus float. Remember, we're used to using floats. What is a float? Number with a decimal. So select float minus float. And then you're going to see this thing, it says minus, and then there's a number here, it says 1. Let's change that to 0.5. 0.5. Okay. And then drag the output of that calculation, so the rightmost circle, and connect it into the battery power option of set. Like that.
And you put float minus float, right?
Yep, float minus float. So battery power minus 0.05. You want 0.05. And then it goes into the set of battery power. Now what that code's going to do is that means that every 0.2 seconds, it's going to take battery power, it's going to subtract it by 0.05, and then it's going to set battery power to the new number. So it will drain constantly. Yeah, question?
I like to use that for the second battery power on connecting the bottom battery power.
Yeah. So, okay, so he's asking, what do I do after I have this bottom battery power, the smaller one? What you're doing is you're dragging off of it and you're typing the word minus, and you want to select the node that says float minus float. Just a subtraction node for doing basic subtraction. Okay, so this code currently drains the battery power, but we have no way of knowing what it is. So there's one more thing I want to do, is I want to do something called print string. Print string is an ancient programming tool that everybody uses in every program. And all it does is just prints words up that only the developer can see. So if you're to ship the game, no one can see it. but usually you use it in debugging or trying to see if your code's working. So we're going to do that. We're going to print basically what our number is. And as we play the game, we should see that number change and go down. If it's not going down, then we know we have a problem with our code. So to do that, we'll just go to the front of event tick. So just go to the front of what you've been coding. Make a little space here on event tick, because we're going to put some code in the middle between event tick and branch. And what I want you to do is I want you to drag off of event tick and type in print string. And once you get that node called print string, select it. By the way, what's a string? String, again, it's like the theme of the class today, is like bad terms that make no sense. String, floats, booleans, what are all these things? All a string is a piece of text. That's all it is. It's words. Okay? So once you have print string up here, you can see it's already set to print hello. I mean, that's nice and all. I like being greeted with hello, but let's print it with something useful, okay? So let's print it with our battery power. How do we do that? Just grab it. Do a get. So on the left, grab battery power, drag it onto the graph, hit get, put it beside your print string, and plug in battery power into the thing that says in string for print string. And if you do that, it's going to pop up a new little node there, and that's just converting it from a number type of variable to something it can print, a text type of variable. And once you've done that, go ahead and hit play. And mine's working. So I can see on here on the left a bunch of numbers appearing and being subtracted. Is yours working? Yeah? Working? Okay. All right. Let's connect this information to our progress bar on our screen so that our progress bar accurately reflects what our battery life is at. All right, so now what I want everyone to do is go to your widget. Remember this? Our player screen. Mine's called player screen. Yours might be called that, or menu screen or something. To do that, if you don't have it up already, go to your content browser in the front of Unreal and either type in widget or just find the folder that you saved it in. But if you type in widget, you'll see it, double click it, it'll bring up our widget editor. So go ahead and open up your widget editor now. And even if it's not draining and you're having problems with your code, we can come back to that. This won't affect that, okay? So go ahead and follow along.
Wait, how do you get to widget editor?
How I got to widget? Well, go to your third-person example map. So you're the front of Unreal. And remember, content browser's on the bottom. In content browser, type in widget, and then in the search bar here. And then when it comes up, you double-click it. Okay. All right, moving on. I'm on my widget here. I select my progress bar. And in the details panel, you'll see in the category called progress, something called percent. Okay? And percent can be, I can drag it as a slider, or I can set its values, but it basically goes between 0 and 1. That's why I had you make your flashlight 1.0. That represents 100% full battery. 0 means 0%. Anything in between is percent. So between 0 and 1. Okay? Now next to that percent variable is something called bind. Click bind, and then you get the sub thing that comes down and says create binding. Click that. I'll do it again. Here I'm doing it. So it's next to percent. It says create binding. It says bind. Click bind, then create binding. And it'll take you to an event graph. More coding. And so go ahead and drag this return node off a little ways, because we got to put some code in between the front and the end. So get you some room. And what I want you to do is, from the front of this, drag off and type in cast to third. And you want to find cast to third person character. Not the one that says cast to third person character class. You want the one that says cast to third person character. You know you did it right because cast to third person character is blue and cast to third person character class is purple. Yeah. You want blue. You can use the mouse wheel to zoom in. Yeah, so that's another good point on graph navigation. Zoom in with the mouse wheel. Okay. So you have get percent, and then the next node that you've dragged off is cast a third person character. Now, at the bottom there, it says as third person character, and it has this blue circle. Go ahead and drag off of that. What we're doing here is what the cast2 node lets us do is it lets us access any properties of another object. Remember, right now we're in the widget. We're not on the player. So how do we get stuff the player has, like the variable that we just made? Well, that's what you use a cast2. So once you have the cast2, you can drag off of this as third person character and literally just type battery. And it's going to have all the battery stuff. And we want to do a get battery power, the green one, right? That's our float, that's our number. And then, simple as this, you can see you just connect battery power into the return value on the return node. And that completes the function, right? Now go ahead and hit compile and tell me what happens. Error. The reason we get an error is because we haven't connected anything to our object yet. So I always have students do this. So number one, get used to lots of errors happening as you write code. You know, you never get it right the first time. But also, as an important note about casting is on the left here it has this object. And it needs to know which character you have. Because there are multiplayer games where you might have many third-person characters, and each of them have their own battery powers with all their own numbers. So it needs to know which one are you talking about. So drag off of, I'll answer that in 1 second, but just following along, you're going to drag off of object, and then type in get character, and you want to find the node that says get player character, and click that. And once you're good with that, go ahead and compile and hit play. It all should work. And it works. My flashlight drains. Yep. Okay, question over there. What's that? You're probably not binding the progress. You're probably binding something else. Come over. Yeah, so you're binding the colors of design. Yes, we want to see progress. We want to see percent progress. We're going to bind that. That's what you're getting at. So you're binding on the code there. Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't get any of that because I didn't know what you were doing in your field.
So what it is it's hitting. It's oh, you have the image, so you want your progress bar. So, oh, you don't have a progress bar. No, because you just have an image. You want to find progress bar. Drag that off. Yeah. This progress bar has a certain property called percent. Yep. And then see over here it says percent. So select it. See it says percent. Hit bind. Create bind new. And then go ahead and use YouTube video and follow along, or look at my screen up there and recreate the code you just did. So it's yeah. Looks good to me. Yeah, you're doing all right.
I'm fine.
Yeah, there's one called progress. So it's oh, you don't have a progress bar. So this you're at the text box. So you want to get progress bar. Is there one called progress bar? Now if you drag up there's something called percent. That's want to do cast to first? Cast to. The one that says cast a third person character, not the one that says class. Yeah, that's right. And then you're gonna drag it to there to get battery life, and then there, and then get third person, or sorry, get player characters from the other objects. Okay, gotcha. Go to so I like to keep everything in one tab like this, so I would drag everything and window. Yeah, bind, create binding. Do this, follow the code. Yeah, follow the wiki. Okay.
Where's the bar?
Huh? Oh, well, if you look at your widget, so you go to designer, and there's your widget, and then looks like you did something here with binding NTF. Is that working? Oh, the bar is there? That's what you're saying. So going back to, this is why I like to have everything on the tab. And you're not gonna, with that selected, I'm gonna find this bottom thing of mission box for this day. Oh no, you didn't do create widget, I guess, which is what we did last time. So you're almost there. The only thing that's to be here is plug and play. Type in begin.
Did I spell right? Where did you go for the progress bar again? Okay, how was your last time? One bar went down. Yes, 2 seconds. My only problem is that I need to go back to it. So it's this. It went down.
Yeah, go ahead. Why?
Look at this. I think that's in the and then I tried my hardest.
Yeah, they're doing that, I guess now. So you can go to whatever the other one is, nearest one.
Let's see, there's one I think is back place.
Wait, Victor, where's the anchor again for the screen menu?
I'm sorry?
Where's the anchor for screen menu again?
So if you, in designer, if you select it, whatever you've selected, it's at the top of details called anchors. You click that, and then you have all these different anchors. Choose from. Yeah, coming over.
I don't know where you got that target there.
Drag off of third person character. Type in battery. There's someone in the stage.
Johnny, I made your bed.
Get battery power. You're in the danger zone, buddy. Santa's coming. Watch out. Okay, you want to connect those? Maybe you want to move. I don't know. That's insane. I don't know what's going on. It is.
I made a parkour version of Minecraft. This is the entry point to a game.
And then the last thing you gotta do is go back to the scroll this way.
Yeah, but usually every.
Hold down the right mouse until you drag. Yeah. So you just want to drag up an object and look up something called get player character.
I'm not sure.
Oh, it's the same. So some of you, I won't call out this time, but some of you are doing homework for other classes. That's against the rules in my class. So this is your one warning. Follow along and pay attention. It's really for your own benefit. But this is the one time I want to see that. And then from now on, no more. I mean, if you come up to me and you're like, hey, listen, Mr. Torres, I have this English teacher. She's being a real jerk. Blah, 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 blah. Can I do this, this, and this? I'll make some leeway. But if we're doing a lesson and you're just blatantly not following along, I'm going to call you out. Yeah, question? What's that? Anchor. By the way, what I just said about doing homework in this class, if the person didn't hear it, a person's doing it, please tell them. Otherwise, I'll put it on. Yeah. So select it. You have to have it selected first. And you just, so what are you going to anchor? Now you can do it. Because it doesn't know what you want to anchor. Yeah. What's that? Oh, okay. So what you did your binding, you did everything. Because you see you have that, so hit the magnifying glass there. There we go. Yeah, you're all caught up. I didn't add anything. Oh, good. It's fine. It's all right.
I accidentally put this on this thing instead of this here.
No, that's right. You want it on screen menu. Yeah, that's right. Yep, that's exactly it. So do you hit play it? Did you try it? Yep, works. Good. See? Progress bar falls on. Hey guys, go ahead and save. Save and get ready to log out because class is. Is your variable at 1 or is it still at 0? So go back to third person character. Select battery life, battery power. So yeah, just select it. And 1 back to battery power. So that's when my select there for it at 1. So that means probably not the next it's
There's a way to tell if the link is present.
well, yeah, that's just the fill color, so it's just play. And it's going down to 0. Oh, it's going down. How does it look like binding here? It's binding the color too. So, all right, save, log out.
Like those like that.
Alright, bye guys. Bye guys. Good one. Last class of the day.
Yes, I
All right, guys, class has started, so you're seated. And new way of doing attendance, one where it's much easier. I'm going to hand this clipboard out, and you're going to sign next to your name in the column that says comments. If you don't sign, you're absent. So I'm marking absent. So just sign your name in the comment section. So everybody log in, and launch your old project. We're going to continue on with that today.
That's right.
Yeah. I can press the hero and just be like, I can do that.
Look anyway,
Yeah, I can do that because I know my
Get out of here. Wow. Dude, he likes Dallas. He likes Dallas fuel.
Okay, you like me now. They're trash. Oh yeah, off season. Oh, okay.
With our, have you seen our new, have you seen the new players? More creative vendors. Yeah, what happened to mine?
Yeah, probably don't you break rates.
Did you do that?
Okay, guys, I'm going to start with a video. So right now you're launching your editor. Thank you. I'm talking, so yeah. Good. So go ahead and log in, and launch your project from last time. I'll play this 5-minute video first, so by the time this is over, we're ready to get started. Okay? And so there's a clipboard going around. You're going to sign your name in the comments section on the clipboard to let me know that you're here. All right, there we go.
Every year, we get a lot of requests to do sponsored shows, and we end up turning the vast majority of them down. But every once in a while, somebody approaches us and suggests something really interesting, like those Punic Wars episodes we did. It's usually something that as soon as they pitch the idea, we all go, wow, why didn't we think of that? Well, recently, the folks at Unity asked us to do a series on creating your first game. Frankly, I'm actually shocked we haven't addressed that before now, so time to fix that. The truth is, I have run into too many people who at some point decided they wanted to make games, and they picked up an engine, and they started diving in, and they quit before they ever finished their first game because the experience was just frustrating. It seemed like it was going nowhere. And I don't know if we can help, but this team has quite a lot of collective game-making experience, so hopefully some of our advice here will help you avoid the common pitfalls. The first thing you're gonna want to be careful about is scope. Many people pick up a game engine dreaming of making the types of games they play. Unfortunately, this often just is not possible.
No, already got a volunteer. Where's the attendance sheet? I know, I'm going to grab it. Where's the attendance sheet? Right there. Okay, I'm going to do the rest off here. Okay, guys, old style. If you're here, say yes. Okay. Ulysses. Ulysses? Not here. Javier? Yes. James? Here. Omar? Omar's absent. Joyden? Here. Jacob? Jacob's absent. Jiquez? Marissa? Marissa's absent. Wait, here? Sorry, wait, here or not? Grant? Here. Laura? Aiden? Here? No, Ashley? I know a lot of people aren't. Phoenix?
Here.
Avian?
Here.
Alan?
Here.
Jose?
Here.
Esteban?
Here.
Gabriel? Marco?
Here.
Elsa? He's here. Hi, Elsa. Okay. All right.
Yes, sir, you didn't call my name.
What's that? Haley's last name is.
Oh, Haley. I'm talking about last name.
Oh no, I got it. All right. Your my attendance delivered. Thank you.
I would say
All right. Go and finish this video and then get started. So you're opening Unreal so that we're ready to go when we're done.
Games like God of War or Final Fantasy are made by teams of at least 40 people, sometimes way more than 40 people, over the course of several years. Even if you're just amazing and you throw your whole life into creating your game, you're not gonna make a God of War or a Final Fantasy. Not even close, and especially not on your first attempt. Truth is, you're not even gonna create something like Super Mario Bros. As your first game. You may create like 1 level's worth of Super Mario Bros., but even that's kind of pushing it. Your goal with your first game should be to get something built that you can actually play, even in the most rudimentary fashion, as soon as possible. Think of your first game as a learning exercise, not your masterwork. If you start with a huge project, you'll find that you don't even know where to begin, and you'll get bogged down doing little bits and pieces that have no tangible result, and it'll seem like you're not making any progress at all, and you'll hit roadblocks that you don't know how to overcome, simply to be left flailing for what to even work on next. Trust me, keep it simple. If your first attempt at making a game turns out to be a one-room platformer with bad collision that you took 3 weeks to build, be proud of that because you built it. You actually got it done. You made a game. That's more than most people ever manage. So play it and show it to your friends. And don't worry when they don't understand it or are critical because they're still thinking in terms of the big budget games they're used to playing. You know how much work went into making that game, and more importantly, you know that next time you'll be able to do it even better and faster. Soon, you'll be building games that people are asking you to let them play. Second thing to keep in mind, and I know this is gonna sound weird, but don't go into your first game with a specific idea. Learn what you can do and design around that. Don't lock yourself into an idea and beat your head against it for weeks or months. Instead, learn a few tricks, watch a few tutorials, then start working towards something you're pretty sure you can build. It's okay if there are still a few parts of it you have no idea how to even start to do, but make sure it's only a few parts when you're breaking your project down and planning things out. Which, of course, brings us to tutorials. Any major engine has tons of people who happily make tutorials about pretty much everything. Go find them, watch them, study them. Then, if you're stuck or if you can't find an answer to your question, just ask. You'd be shocked at how many people are happy to help you through things if you just post on a forum or throw your thoughts onto the message boards. And don't be afraid of coding. Lots of people say they can't code, but if you design your game right, you would be shocked at how little coding you actually have to do to get something done. It's a small enough amount that any of you out there watching this right now can handle it. Again, just start small, keep it simple. You'll learn as you go, and here especially there are plenty of sites out there that'll help get you started. Stack Exchange is a fantastic place to look if you have questions. Which leads us nicely into one of the big ones. Design your game around your skills. Part of understanding your scope is understanding your resources, and in this case, you are your resources. Are you a great artist, but you've never coded in your life? In that case, have your game lean on your art skills while pushing you just enough on the code side that you learn some new things. Are you somebody who can't draw or model or animate? That's alright. There are plenty of games out there that get away with what you'd call minimal graphics. Accept that and embrace it as part of your design. Constraints force us to be creative. And if there's something you really just have to have, if there's some coding task or some piece of art that your game just can't live without but you just don't have the chops to do it yourself, go to the asset store. There is an amazing amount of stuff that you can get there for next to nothing. James just talked to a professional studio that picked up their entire voice chat code from the asset store for less than it would have cost them all to go to the movies. James really wishes he had this sort of thing when he started out working in games, so take advantage of it. Finally, don't give up. There is a lot of life that's gonna get in the way. Most people start out doing this between juggling a job or a full school schedule, and it's very, very easy to let days and then weeks pass before you get back to working on your game. It's gonna be a struggle at first, no question. I wish I had more comforting words for you, but all I can say is that most things worth doing are a struggle. And if you stick with it, maybe one day you'll have the option to make games instead of having to do all that other stuff. But that's it for the basics. I know that was all broad, basic stuff that most of you probably already knew, but I think it's important to start there, because when you're deep in the process of making a game, it's often that really high-level, basic stuff that people forget. But join us next episode for more of the practical nuts and bolts of making your first game. See you next week!
Right, so you guys are opening Unreal. You should have opened your project, so you're on your project by now. I have an added resource, though, for all of you. So we're having difficulty with class, especially these last couple classes. And then part of it is because part of it's talking. And we're definitely doing something about that, including moving seats and stuff if I have to. But the other part is our projector is just too damn small. So what I did is everything that I'm doing right now is live streaming on YouTube. So pull up a YouTube window right now and just type in Dotware Games. It's my YouTube channel, and look for the video that's live. Everything I'm doing in Unreal is being live streamed, so you can follow along on your computer rather than having to look at the tiny projector. Yeah. And maybe type in live afterwards. Yeah. It'll have a big red live button on it. Yep, that's it. Yep, live now. Some of you got it. You'll see it'll be a little Unreal character, guys. Cool. Now turn the audio down. Do me a favor and turn the audio down. Because you got me. I'm not here.
Whoa, that's so bad. People are watching you.
What's that?
People are watching you.
Oh, look at that. Yes.
This is so amazing. I'll be the one I heard that name.
Alright. So anything I do on the board, you can now see on your screen. Sound good? Okay. Mr. Torres. What? Question? Good? Alright, so last class, what did we do? We turned the light on and off, right? Did we create a widget so that you could see a menu screen that comes up? And we made it so the menu screen comes up when you play the game? Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create variables. And hey guys, I'm talking, so I should be hearing you talking. So we create variables. And variables are a way of storing information. The information that we'll store is... What's up? So the information that we'll store will be flashlight battery, and then also whether the flashlight is on or off. Okay. So you're in Unreal. Go ahead. We want to get to our third-person blueprint. So select your character and do that Edit Blueprint, Open Blueprint Editor if you don't already have it. And you should get to this screen where you have all of your graph. Okay, so you've got your blueprint graph out, right? Because you found your character, you hit Edit, Open Blueprint Editor. So you have your graph. This is what you should look like. There's all the stuff. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do is in the lower left.
Be quiet, be quiet.
So in the lower left, there is something called variables. I want you to look at that, and there's a plus icon next to variables. Go ahead and hit the plus icon there. It's in the lower left when you're in the graph editor here. And once you create that plus icon, it's going to come up with this new thing. It's like red, right? Go in the details panel on the right with it selected and change that variable name category to battery power. You there? Will you be my resident tutor, helping people? Thank you. Okay. Sure. Oh boy. Oh boy.
No. Hey, Joe, it's not one. What is that? What are you doing? Power. I said that. Power.
I did not do anything.
All right, guys. I'm going to move on. I'll just cover real quick what I just did. When I say I'm going to move on, that's not a cue for you to get louder. It's a cue for you to get quieter. So quiet that I can't hear you because it's distracting everybody who's in the game design program. This class is called Digital Game Development. I'd like to teach you that. But if you talk while I'm talking, that becomes impossible. All right? And I'm looking at you, Jiquez. Stop talking to your neighbor. I'm going to move your seat. All right. Okay, everybody, what we just did is in the lower left, there's something called variables. Click the plus sign named variable, next to variable, and you get this option. With it selected, in the details on the right, you name it battery power. Okay? Now, underneath battery power with the new name you gave it, I want you to change that thing that says Boolean, change it to something called float. Okay? What float is that just a number variable. That's just a way of storing it. And this is going to store how much battery power we have left, okay? So then what I want you to do is in this upper left, there's this icon that has like gears and stuff, and it says compile. Click the compile button. Now what that lets us do is back in details on the right, you can change the default value. That is the value that this variable has already. And you can change it. Right now it's at 0. I want you to change it to 1. Change it to 1. Okay. So you made a variable. You named it battery power. Under variable type and details, you change it from Boolean or whatever it was to the word called float. That's 4 down. Now it's green. That means it's a number variable. And then you hit this compile button on the left. Okay. And then that lets you change the default value, which we changed from 0, and now it's a 1. So now it's 1 over here. Okay? All right. So that's it for making that variable. Let's do the same thing again. We're going to make one more variable. So click the plus icon under variables. And I want you to call this battery is on question mark. It's a really literal name for a variable. Name it battery is on question mark. Yeah. It's not like any complex stuff, guys. I like to name these variables so that when I read it later, I can go, oh, that's what I meant by this. Because what this variable is going to do is it's going to remember, it's going to memorize whether the battery is turned on or whether it's turned off. Because we'll need that information later. Go ahead and get the door, please. Thank you. Okay. So what I want you to do is change variable type on that. Change it to Boolean. Change the variable type to Boolean for the battery is on. Yeah. Boolean. Boolean's a really fancy, weird, arcane, bizarro programmer word for on or off, or true or false. Okay, so when you hear Boolean, don't get all intimidated. It just means true or false. Right? So then I want you to do this. On the left, click the compile button again. That's the button with the gears in the top left. And now, in default value, in your details panel, go ahead and put a check mark in that little box that says battery is on. And you want to check it. That means our battery is on is true by default. So when we start the game, battery is on is set to true. Okay? So that's what that's about. Now, what I want everyone to do is we're going to continue off of our code. Go ahead. No question over there? Yeah, question? I have someone over there who will come by and help you. Just keep raising your hand. So, and also you can, if he doesn't have, do you have the video up? You can follow the video if you want to see what I'm doing. The video, guys, the live stream lets you rewind. You can rewind the live stream. Okay. All right. Moving on. So I want you to get over to your F key or your flip-flop, the area where you turn the light on and off, okay? And scroll over to that. And I want you to drag your battery, the one that says, or drag your is battery on variable, right next to set intensity, and you're going to do set. Because we're going to set is battery on. And then you're going to connect that. And you do it one more time for the bottom part. Like so. And make sure that the one coming from the B channel, right after this second set intensity, is check mark true.
Wait, connected to what?
So you dragged battery is on to your graph, and you did a set, and you did it twice. One for each channel. The top one's off by default. The bottom one is checked. Okay? Also, my tutor, there is a hand raised over here when you're done with him.
Yeah, but what do I do?
I guess they both need help.
What did
Remember, you have one for your A channel, one for your B channel from the flip-flop node, right? Okay. So this is what the code looks like, guys. Remember, you have the YouTube video so you can see that. But yeah, the top one's unchecked, the bottom one's checked. All that's going on here is we're recording whether the battery is on or off with this variable. And we'll be able to use that information later. Okay? So I'd like to move on. So what you're going to do now is go ahead and find an empty part of the graph. So just scroll up to where it's blank. And then once you have an empty part of the graph, right-click. And I want you to type in the word tick. T-I-C-K. Event tick. And then select what comes up. So you guys remember event begin play last class, right? Where we made the widget, we made our menu. How many times does begin play happen during the game?
Once.
Once. It happens once. Event tick is like the opposite of begin play. event tick happens all the time. It happens every time our game is registered as a frame. So it happens like 30, 50, 60, even more times per second, okay? So it's a perfect place for us to check whether our light is on or off, and then to calculate the draining of that battery. So everybody, you found an empty part of graph, you typed in tick, T-I-C-K, and you got this red event tick thing here. Go ahead and drag off of event tick and type in branch. Select branch. Okay. Branch executes code either on a true channel or a false channel. What we're going to do is we're going to connect that is battery on variable to the branch, and then it's going to fire code on event tick depending on whether it's true or false. So go ahead, once you've looked up branch, drag battery is on, do get, and then connect that into branch. You connect that into the condition part of branch. You see, because they're both red, so you just drag wire to wire. Okay. And you can see on the YouTube video what it looks like. Right? Okay. So now what I want you to do is drag off of the true channel from branch, let go, and I want you to look up something called delay. When you're finding the delay, it's in flow control, and select delay. What delay is going to do is it's going to slow down our code, because we don't want this calculation that subtracts our flashlight, that's what we're doing here, to happen multiple fractions of a second, because it'll happen so fast that the battery will get drained before we even have time. Can you please be quiet and not do that? Thank you. Okay, but you could yawn a lot quieter. And if you can't, I'll have you yawn in a different room. Okay. All right, so let's move on. I'd like to move on. All right, so I had you look up delay. It's at 0.2. Go ahead and drag off of delay. And I want you to look up set battery power. You either look it up or you can drag it onto the graph. Either way works. Yeah. Set battery power. Okay. Then what I want you to do is once you have that, drag this battery power from your variables onto your graph and get a get this time. So we both have a set and a get. Then drag battery power off and type in the word minus. So you should have a set that's connected to the delay, and then you're doing a get also, but this one's just going to be beneath the delay, kind of like in between the two, yeah. So you have a set here connected to delay, and then a get down here. All right? So then drag off of battery power, the get version, the small one, type in the word minus, and this will be something that says float minus float. Remember, a float is just a number that can have a decimal. We're using float, so select float minus float. All we're doing is doing a subtraction calculation, okay? Yeah, question?
How do you get the set?
There's two ways to do it. You could right-click and type in set battery, and it'll come up. Or the other way is drag off of battery power. This is your variable battery power. And when you drag it off, it asks you, do you want to get or do you want to set? And you click the set version. Okay. All right. Okay. Battery power. So you've dragged off of the get for battery power. You've typed in the word minus. And it should say something like this, -1. So what I want you to do is change -1 to change that number to 0.05. Okay.
Oh, you got something that I don't got.
Yeah.
How do you get the...
Got it?
What is that one? Hey, Marco. Hey, Marco. Yeah, they can't. No. They teach the class, not the chat. Who's in Rida? Reader. Reader.
That's it?
Hey.
No, he's helping me
I'm
first.
not asking, I'm asking Nate.
Guys, are you looking at the YouTube video? Are you able to, because if you go there, you can rewind and you can follow exactly what I did, so you can see the code. The live stream, yeah. That's why I have you looking at the live stream. That's why I wanted you to pull it up. Yeah, everybody, the live stream is there to help you. That's why we're live streaming, so that you can see what I'm doing on the board, but on your computers. I'm going to turn down the audio, though. Yeah.
That's called.
Which one? This?
Yes.
This is when you look up minus. So watch, I drag up here, I type in either the minus symbol, or I type in the word minus, doesn't matter, and you get float minus float. That's what you want. It's a float minus float.
Oh, here you go.
All right, for those of you who are caught up, I'm going to move on. So this will also happen in the video. So you have this battery power minus this 0.05 or whatever. Just connect this circle from the minus calculation into the front of the battery power on set. So you're dragging a wire like this, like that. You're just connecting them. Okay. That will complete our calculation. What's that?
You're talking about my brother? James?
I'll tell my James.
Oh, I'm talking about a James.
All right, guys, let's do one more thing. We'll make this real easy. What I want you to do, go ahead and go to the front of event tick. Drag event tick off to the left so you got some space. We're going to write some code just real quick between event tick and branch. What I want you to write is something called print string. Print string is used in all programming. It's like the first computer thing ever. What it is, it's a way of sending information to the screen that we can see, not our player. So if we ship the game, they won't be able to see this, but we can see to make sure our code is working. So drag off of event tick, just right off the front of it, and type in print string. And then select print string, and that comes up. String is just a really bad computer term that means a word. It means text, okay? That's all a string is.
Wait, how do we add to that line?
So you're dragging off of event tick, the front of it, so make some room, and then you type in print string, and then it's going to automatically connect them. So, all right. And you'll see it says in string. It has this thing. It says hello. That's the text that it says currently. We want to show our variable on there. So go ahead and drag out your battery power variable right over here by this print string and let go. And it's going to ask you, do you want to get or set? You want to get. You're getting the battery power. And then finally, what you want to do is you want to connect this circle on battery power into the in string, just the front of print string. It says in string. And there's little things that'll pop up that converts it, basically. You don't have to worry about that, just Unreal converting a number into a text or to a word. And now if you hit play, and you've done all that correctly, go ahead, and you should see a bunch of numbers on the left side of your screen. That's coming up because of the print string. Furthermore, those numbers should be declining. They should be decreasing because of your calculation. That's how your battery life gets drained. For what?
Totally won't be depressed.
So we did print string, and then we connected battery power into print string.
Same body.
I am, yes, OBS, yep. Yep. That's what I'm using to do the live stream.
Mister, are you Mexican?
Are you asking me if I'm Mexican?
Yeah.
I don't think I should answer that question. Because I don't think it's a classroom question. Okay, so guys, I'm putting the code up here, all of the code that what it should look like in event tick. So if you want to look on YouTube or whatever, it's all there. So if you copy that, then it will work. Make sure all the lines go exactly where they're supposed to go, etc., etc. This is all the code that we just wrote, right here. Hey. Doing well. Yeah, I had a great weekend. How was yours? Restful.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the scene chart.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So here's 1 to 7 minus 34.
Perfect. Okay, great.
And here is a charger for the for this one here.
Okay, cool. So we'll get that plugged in eventually.
Yeah. And I'm not charging for this. Just an extension maybe, or plug it in here.
Yeah, maybe an extension, because what would be great is I have I have all this stuff plugged here.
Okay.
I wonder if I can get an extension wired, and so I have just maybe a series of stuff so that everything can plug in. Because look at, you can't even walk by there right now.
Yeah, I know.
So you have it all there, and the swivel could be like that too. Can we turn the light on?
Yeah.
So guys, that's it for today's lesson, but keep figuring it out and developing. I'm turning the lights on, but still, we're still in lab time right now. So that's it for my instructions. Yeah. I'm doing a YouTube streaming live right now off of my screen, my computer screen. So all the students, they can go to YouTube and they can see what's on my little projector on their computer right now.
Oh, great.
So that seems to be working.
So is that like your own channel?
Yeah, I put it on the Dotware Games channel, which I've never used, like I used once.
Okay.
And so they type Dotware Games in, and there's a video that says live. And when you click on it, it's everything right here with like a 10-second delay to it.
Oh, yeah.
So it worked for the last class. This class is tough. Alright. Do you need me, or should I go?
Yeah, go.
Okay. I'm back way back here.
What is that?
Hey, what's your PayPal? Hey, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Right here.
Oh my God. Who's that one? I swear to God,
Subscribe and say they're not doing this fucking
Drag battery power on it.
I can sub for $5. What if it's like
If you're not, follow along. Drag off the vent. Oh my god! That's so right.
Because like she said, I It's a joke. It's smart. I think you stop. I am. Who's your sponsor?
Yeah.
Because he has a big line of bed that always actually was.
Hey,
Whoa. Don't do that.
Time of class end, 150.
151.
Oh yes. Oh my god. Right. Oh dang. We shall see all. Wait, who was your sponsor? He said, I am. Who's your sponsor? There was like 5 different people.
Wow.
What about you? Was it I am? Did you get that sense though?
Yo! I'll tell you what I'm on, but I'll give you
Go and log out, guys. Save and log out.
depending on their fun score.
Your attendance sheet that they took?
Yeah, this, I sent someone with it. They called and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's all on here. They have like chat and everything.
All right,
And
great.
this is my screen. It just shows the Unreal stuff, so I can go anywhere in here and look around there. And then it's about 10 seconds behind.
Good.
My audio goes through it, and yeah. So the last couple classes I started this around. I set it up during lunch, and because I kind of asked the one of my first or second classes, like, hey guys, would it be easier? Because the way that the computers are set up, 50% of the room's not even facing.
Yeah, right.
They can't even see it.
Right, yeah.
So I was like, if I could stream it, would that help you? And so
that's great. Yeah, and it's just Dotware.
Yeah, if you just type in Dotware games,
okay.
And then you see this one that says live now.
Oh, okay.
That's it, and it takes you right into it.
Great. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So your students can do it too, I guess, if they want.
Absolutely.
I think I'll try and do it every day, and then PA system was working great until I needed. I guess my batteries died on this, and I barely used them.
Yeah. So it's connected to that.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. And is this normal that both wires plugged in? It was quieter. With one wire, it was much louder.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you use whatever is the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
It did help. I was like, it did help, and then it died that last 2 periods. The ones when I needed it.
Yeah.
The not so disciplined classes.
Yeah.
But I just used double OBS.